Good morning. Thank you for joining us on this SAG-AFTRA live stream on YouTube. To stay informed about all of our live stream and video events, we invite you to subscribe to the channel. You can go ahead and do that right now, SAG-AFTRA on YouTube. Today, we present the President's Task Force on Education Outreach and Engagement live streaming for the virtual stage. We'll be pausing throughout as we will have Nicole Pancino and Courtney Nimmersheim here with us to translate today's program into American Sign Language. Nicole and Courtney will be switching off periodically throughout today's discussion. The presentation will begin momentarily. If you have questions that you'd like to direct to today's guest, please email pteoe@sagaftra.org. That's pteoe@sagaftra.org, and we'll make sure he gets those questions. As a reminder, today's program is being recorded, and you can watch the replay right here on SAG-AFTRA's YouTube channel, along with more great content. Please note that SAG-AFTRA does not endorse any product nor service. What you're viewing today does not constitute an endorsement by the union. Now, please give a warm welcome to today's host, SAG-AFTRA President Gabrielle Carteris.
Thank you, Pam. Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. I hope you're doing well. You're staying safe and healthy. I want to say today's presentation is a really, I think, very important topic. It's live streaming for the virtual stage. You know, many of us really have learned over the past 11 months how important live streaming is. It has soared through the quarantine. And I believe, as I think many of you do, that it is here to stay. So I think many performers have actually discovered new opportunities to personally connect with fans and to grow social communities across popular channels. And though many of us are anxious to get back to some normalcy, I know all of us are, I guess, in some ways, right? You know, with attending concerts, live events, movies, and all that. It's also a treat that many performers have found ways to express their creativity during a time where we're all craving interhuman connectivity. We're all wanting to find a way to express our talents. So we're here today with a special presentation and discussion about performing for internet and ways to augment your current setup with minimal expense. Yay. It's a very important thing, particularly now when everybody's really trying to work and they're not having a lot of money there. So we'll take a deep dive into a wide array of streaming platforms, protocols, and equipment that's currently available and available to you to make your work happen. Before the introduction, though, of our guest, who I actually love, I want you to also be able to say hello to SAG-AFTRA's National Executive Vice President, Rebecca Damon. Hi, Rebecca.
Hey, Gabrielle. Hey, Dan.
Love that you're here. So you guys, are you ready for this? Today's guest is none other than singer-songwriter Dan Navarro, someone actually I've known and loved and admired for a very, very long time. Dan has uniquely and unequivocally his expertise to share with over 200 live streams produced in just the last 10 months. That's the kind of work he's doing. Dan has an eclectic 40-year career as a songwriter, artist, singer, and voice actor, spread over 17 acclaimed albums, thousands of concerts, Oscar-winning films like Coco, Happy Feet, TV series, games, commercials. He's very, very Renaissance man. And he hit songs like Pat Benatar's Grammy-nominating We Belong. Dan is the personification of the engaged Renaissance artist. In truth, he is what we all hope to be able to work in every aspect of our business, even in COVID isolation with over 200 live streams since March of 2020. He insists that art is love and sleep is for babies. Those are his words. I must be a baby. I have to sleep. Anyway, I have to say that Dan has also been a faithful supporter of singers working with me on the front line to protect the rights of our music performers. He's there fighting for them every day. Dan, we are so happy to have you back with us today and to be able to hear what you are going to teach us, and so we can be better. So thank you for being here.
It is great to be here with you all. You know, the necessity came up. How do I engage? I mentioned earlier during the prep, I've been a road musician for over 30 years. I haven't been home without going out on the road longer than 2 months since 1990. And shutdown became profound. I haven't really left my dwelling or gone out. I haven't left LA since March 8th. And that's the longest in 36 years. that I've gone without a trip. So I had to do something, and I had started live streaming at my regular shows. I'd stick a vertical phone up, and at a show I would live stream one song. Hi, this is Dan. I'm in Sterling, Virginia at a house concert, and would do one song, and it kind of taught me what the paradigm was about. So March 15th, I was sitting around going, I'm going live. And I did it, and it turned into daily for a while. I was 6 days a week from March 15th till August 15th. And in August, I kind of cut it back to 3 days a week. But the engagement is really what I learned was the most important part of it. And what I started learning by doing was the graduation, little by little, into a little bit more sophisticated setups and a little bit higher quality productions. I was able to stream. My first probably 40 streams were just with my phone and the built-in microphone. You know, one of the keys, the phone should really be on on horizontal. It's just the way it goes. It looks like what we're used to with film. But the camera is excellent. If your lighting is thought out, you know, you can look good and sound good. The microphone's designed to pick up average level. So my first streams, which is me with my guitar singing just live in the room, was with the open mic. I did start having some issues because bandwidth is challenged, especially in metropolitan areas. Spectrum, which is where I am, was basically, it was kind of failing every once in a while. So I graduated to a separate microphone that went into the phone. This little guy right here, a Shure MV88 Plus, and it comes with a little kit that's got a little mini tripod that, that you can set up and put on a tabletop, and that's what I used for about the next 20 or 30 until I started going into my computer. Then I started using a higher-end webcam. You can use DSLRs. You can use all kinds of stuff. I got video lights later on, but I went little by little as I could afford it. Right now, and I'm doing this for the sake of demonstration, my Viltrox VL200 video lights are off. What I'm using is a lamp with the shade bent so it points in my face. Most of what you can accomplish in video streaming and live streaming is solved with thought about what you're dealing with. I'm sitting at my piano in my living room because the backdrop essentially looks like if Fred Sanford were on Saturday Night Live. It's meant to be interesting and eclectic and stuff going on. A bare beige wall wouldn't work. Something with a pattern that might go a little jittery wouldn't work. Bookcases work, and you can of course do green screen. But I learned all of this a little at a time as I'm going, okay, now how do I up the ante? And found ways to do that. I found the greatest resource. There are two resources out there with regard to live streaming that were really helpful. One of them, frankly, was YouTube for shootouts on webcams. And what I mean by shootouts, for those of you not familiar, is videos that people put together comparing various products, telling you their basics, telling you their differences. Video lights. I found 3 different shootouts by the same guy. Video lights under $50, video lights under $100, and video lights under $200. And I went in there, and for the lights that I have are Viltrox VL200s. They come with remotes. They come with stands. They look like iPads. They're flat. They're light. They're extremely lightweight, and they're like $175 a pair. Now, to some, that's prohibitive. I could have gotten and they come with stands and remotes. I could have gotten perfectly acceptable lights for about $30 each. And you go to what works for you, but for the first 30 or 40 streams, I used my lamp. And I'm just going to actually share the screen because it's kind of a crack up to show y'all. This is literally what I used. This is what I'm using right now, is a lamp with a chip clip holding the shade so that it will point it in my face instead of pointing the light up and down, or if you take the shade off, it points the light in every direction. This focuses the light in one place. Distinctly low tech. But the idea is to present, and again, I thought through, I need light on me. A lot of people will do streams and have window light behind them. Well, your camera's going to focus its light meter on the brightest light around, which means you're going to go into silhouette. Side light, not good. Have light from 2 sides so there's no hard shadows unless you want that effect. So I kind of graduated a little at a time. I had discovered this particular microphone called the Shure MV Mary Victor -88 Plus. Comes with a tripod, little mini tabletop tripod made by Manfrotto, And it comes with a little phone clip, and the phone clip holds the microphone, which points right at you. Well, there's free software that allows you to control its sweep from 60 degrees to 135 degrees, which means, let's say you're doing a couple of players as a musician. Let's say you're doing a reading with somebody, you're just sitting someplace and you're doing a scene from Forrest Gump on the bus bench. You can widen the sweep of the microphone, and it sounds incredibly good, with all of its parameters controllable by an app and then storable. It's those listed with the little clip and with the tripod for $249. All of a sudden, in the last 2 weeks, they're $170 out there almost everywhere, B&H and other places like that. Now that is, again, that can be prohibitive for people. I did graduate to a mixer with 10 channels. I'm using a professional broadcast microphone called the Shure SM Sam Mary 7B. They're about $400. I've done 2 records with this mic, and it's a dynamic mic, which means it'll reject a bunch of stuff off the sides. Condenser mics sound better for larger groups, or if you want that side sound. But it didn't graduate till probably about 100 streams in. And the last 100 it's been with it, and one of the things I love about it is I can do the voice of God if I want to, or not, because I'm using it for music. And I have a little foot switch so I can turn that off if I decide that it's time. I don't really like the spoken part of my shows to have reverb. I think that sounds kind of hokey. But these things, again, are all part of how you think it through. With regard to how and where to live stream, there are multiple platforms. There's Facebook, there's YouTube, there's Vimeo. And how do you engage with it? You can use this platform or that platform. The best resource I found to figure it out is a blog by a gentleman named Ian Anderson Gray. And I will actually briefly, if I can get my hands on it, put the URL up there. But if you search Ian Anderson Gray, the name of the blog is Top Video Streaming Tips for 2021. It's updated regularly, and when I say regularly, I mean regularly. Last update was January 21st. I found it in April, and it taught me about how it works on Facebook, how it works on YouTube, how it works using Zoom, which will go out to one or the other. I will say Zoom is distinctly bad for music. They have some audio features that are designed to enhance voice. Problem is, it also interprets guitars and instruments as noise, and so it makes them sound squashed and awful. They do have a setting now to optimize for music. If you're using instruments, it works decently, but some of the others work a little bit better. But I learned about multicasters that will go out to Facebook and YouTube and Twitch and, Twitter, but Twitter is Periscope. None of them interface with Instagram. Instagram's an interesting little anomaly. But you can go out to multiple sites at the same time. Those are called multicasters. There are 2 major ones, Restream and StreamYard, and I found out about them from that blog. What I'm kind of looking for as we speak here is the URL for the Ian Anderson Gray website, because it really did give me a ton, and I mean a ton of information as to how to do this. This is the page as I go back to this. Boom, boom, boom. I found this with a simple web search, and I basically said, what's the best way to stream? Top live video streaming tools of 2021 by Ian Anderson Gray. He's at iag.me, and this is not a paid service, anything like that. We're not promoting products, but I am promoting resources. I've also discovered that for myself, one of the greatest resources is a well-worded Google search to really aim it toward what you want to find out. Best mic for streaming, things like that. Best camera for streaming. I found a site that compares Logitech webcams, because they make about 10 of them. And there's about 4 of them. The C920, 923, 925, and 930 are all extremely similar. but they have modest differences. The C930 has a 90-degree spread. The others have a 78-degree spread, which means if you want to do a group thing, you might want that C930. But I actually literally found that by searching Logitech webcams compared. When trying to figure out what's the difference between Restream and StreamYard, which are these multicasters that go to multiple sites, I searched Restream versus StreamYard. Now, forgive me if I'm being elementary for those of you who know that, but I've gotten great traction by literally searching on something versus something else. It comes up, and you start doing the research. You know, I am a voice actor. We're actors. Resources are limited right now. Most of us aren't working. And so this is a way, there are two kinds of currency in our lives. There's money, and there's time and work. So if you're willing to put the time in to search out what you need, you will save hundreds upon hundreds of dollars rather than just going to off the rack and going, I need this. And next thing you know, you spent $1,000 and it hasn't worked out. I'm using right now a Logitech Brio camera that's $199. I did perfectly good streams with a $90 Logitech C920. I did find a camera that's gotten fairly high ratings at a Costco for $69. I put it up and I didn't like it. I took it back. Logitech seems to have it wired and has become the standard out there. For video lights, the range is huge, from $30 to $200. But I managed to find a solution for myself for basically about $80 a light, including stands and remotes. The remotes are necessary because I'm sitting here and I can turn them. Right now I'm only using the lamp, but this is, all of a sudden, this is my lights on and off and on and off. So I can sit here and fix things. I found a resource online called Webcam Settings. This is an app, $6. And what it does is it can adjust light, zoom, pan, saturation, all within this app that controls your webcam. So if things aren't perfect, you don't have to go, well, that's just the way it is. You can adjust. With Webcam Settings, I'm able to literally change almost anything. I gotta find the window here. Hide it. Show it. But these are the kinds of things that I decided to think through as a means of getting, here we go. So with Webcam Settings, I'm able to darken up my picture, lighten up my picture, change the contrast, even make it look really freakishly bad. Saturation, here we go. All of this is in a $6 app that controls my camera, and it's not proprietary to the camera. I got it on the App Store. I'm an Apple guy. I got it on the App Store for $6. Didn't have great ratings, but it does the job for me, and I don't always depend on it. A little thought will get you through, what does this sound like to a pair of ears? The thing to realize is your phone, if you're using your phone or a webcam, those are your eyes. The microphone built into the phone or built into the webcam, those are your ears. And it's simple logic that what you hear will sound better if you don't have cotton in them compared to if you do have cotton in them. And sometimes the Apple, I'm an iPhone guy, probably true with Android as well. The microphones are designed to get good average level from pretty much anything. So if you're in a quiet room and you're projecting a bit, and you don't have to overproject, and you're playing an instrument, an acoustic instrument, you're going to sound pretty decent. If you're playing an electric instrument and you've got an amp, you're going to do better with the amp nearer the mic than you, because there's less space between the face of the amplifier and the microphone for the room to inject itself into the sound. Another way of putting it, when I sit back here, you can hear the room, whether you want to or not. Those logical aspects to figuring out what you do will get you through more issues than simply just tossing something up there and saying, but I don't get why it works. It's how you make the choices and what your resources are that are going to help you do this better and better and better. As your resources increase, a higher end camera, higher end lighting. I went to a mixer with a microphone, and as I said, I'm able to, at the switch of a foot switch, turn on reverb so that when I'm doing music, it sounds a little better. And I've got microphones over here for the guitars, tapping them now. We'll probably play a little song a little later. But so all this is to say that it's the thought and then the search through, the deep dive into the resources, which the internet will give you. I hate to say it, but one of my best resources in terms of shopping everything that's out there happens to be Amazon, because it's a conglomerate. It's an aggregator. They have multiple items on there. As far as where you go to buy them, that can be its own deep dive. I think at our stage, saving 20, 30 bucks on an item adds up after a while. And if you have the time to do it, some of us do have the time. I mean, this is what my time is for. I'm busier in lockdown because I'm spending time doing stuff like this. The aspect that I did not anticipate was the engagement aspect. If you build it, they will come, and regularity is important. I have friends out there who are streaming weekly or once every 2 weeks. My personal opinion, God love them, is it's not enough. I literally went daily and discovered an audience, some of whom were my existing fans. More than half of them were people I had never met, people who'd never been to shows, or they just sort of found me out there, or they were casual listeners. And over the course of a couple of weeks, something started. They call it the Dan Fam. With a TM, they found the option 2 switch, that key on so it's Dan Fam TM. Well, they started a group, and there are 470 people in the Dan Fam on Facebook. I started on Facebook because I was established there. I had traction there. I started moving out. My friend Ellis Paul uses Patreon. He streams about 3 days a week. He's got hundreds of people coming to his streams. I did a stream last night on, yesterday was Monday, so I was on Facebook. And I had about 130 people constantly. They show you the little number up in the corner. It's not a bad number. Other people are doing more. I wanted to try the other platforms because YouTube is there and it's very established. And a lot of people won't go to Facebook. I do not do Facebook. It's nothing but cat videos and angry politics. I'm staying away from there, and I respect that opinion. So that's when I decided to try to multicast and go to multiple platforms at once. It didn't work for me. It works for my friend Ellis Paul. He has big audiences at all the various platforms. I tried both multicasters, Restream and StreamYard. Restream is a little cheaper, about 20 bucks a month on a monthly basis, and allows you more platforms. There are 35 platforms you can go to. About 30 of them aren't appropriate for what I do. The main ones for me are Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Periscope, which used to have more traction, and to a much, much, much lesser degree, LinkedIn. So I multicasted, and I found my audience was still at Facebook. And I tried Restream. I tried StreamYard, which is a little more expensive. You have to go to even higher level to take their branding off it, and it only goes to basically 3 at once for the $25 a month price point. But it has a more reliable interface. Doesn't look as good. Well, what I discovered is that my people were still going to Facebook. So I switched it all up, and in August I cut back to 3 days a week, and I'm now roaming every Monday at 5 p.m. for 2 hours plus. I did 3 hours yesterday. Facebook. Every Wednesday at 5 p.m., YouTube. And every Saturday at 11 a.m. for 3 hours, all requests on Twitch, which is a gamer site that I think somebody just bought them. It was I think Amazon bought them. Might be Google, but I think Amazon bought them. And it's a gamer site that has a very robust area for music. And communities are starting there. People are going to each other's streams doing raids, which is a term of art I learned from my first streams. My moderator, my mod, said, let's do a raid. I go, what's a raid? They go, you take your entire 50-person audience to somebody else's stream, and suddenly their audience doubles. I saw a guy in England who had 1,500 people on his stream at the same time. He's doing nothing but covers, but he makes it work. Robust community out there for musicians. Now, why? You can create community, but guess what? Twitch is monetizing. Twitch allows ways to get subscribers, to get followers, subscribers at 3 different levels for which they get cool little icons to shoot across the screen, or they get a little of this or a little of that. They have a bits program, which is essentially a penny a point, and someone sends you 100 bits. Well, that's $1, but it mounts up. Last month, I made about $500 from Twitch. I made about $350 from Facebook because they're now doing a stars program, and they take a big percentage. Personally, I have a PayPal link for donations on my Facebook event, but I told my people, look, I'm actually kind of okay. You don't need to send me money, and they do it anyway. There is something about extending yourself to an audience and saying, this is not just about the money, but if you give them value and if you give them love, they will show up and they will support you. What I discovered, I've been a professional musician for 45 years. I've been a working, touring musician for 30 years and recording. They weren't saying, I love your music. They weren't saying, I love you. They were saying, you're saving me. You're giving me something to do every day because I'm going crazy at home. My wife and I sit down with dinner and a bottle of wine, and we watch you every night. I became Carson, Leno, Fallon. And I didn't intend to do that. But that's what I discovered, and that's why you go out there. Now, how does it work for actors? It's more difficult. But with the right kind of platform, especially Restream and StreamYard, those aggregators I mentioned, they will allow you to have guests. I think Restream up to 4, and I think StreamYard up to 6. Well, guess what? You could do a little separate window, Brady Bunch, Hollywood Squares, Zoom-like reading with people. And yes, you can use Zoom. Zoom has reduced its prices. It's $15 a month. And so you buy it on an annual basis, at a monthly basis, and you're looking at like $170. They've dropped it to $149 if you pay for the year. Well, I did a deep dive and found a coupon for $119 for 12 months. That gets you more than 100 people into your group, and you can also then go out and live stream to to Facebook or to YouTube, not both, either or. And Zoom is an established platform, and you can go over the 40-minute mark. So I got used to doing Zoom from SAG-AFTRA board meetings and executive committee meetings, so it was an easy lift, and it was $10 a month. So now I'm a member. These are the things you can do to increase your exposure. And, so who's out there? You got 10 people to start? No problem. Keep doing it. Establish something. They're looking for engagement, and they're looking to see something happen. If you make something happen, they will tell others. Someone will. I've got a good bunch of people who said, I was just looking for some music to watch. I clicked on you as I was browsing, and I found you. I've now got fans in Europe that I didn't have before. In particular, a guy in Hastings who said, I just dropped in. There's an old terrible joke about I just came in because the light was in. Moth goes to a podiatrist. I'll tell you the joke another time. All this is to say that it is there for you to utilize, and it wants you. Yes, you need it, but it wants you. But create something. I brand my shows. I branded my shows Songs from the Corona Zone, and I number them. Yesterday was Songs from the Corona Zone number 199. Now, I've done over 200 streams because I've done about 25 streams for other entities, for venues around the country who are having to sort of fix the fact that they can't do shows. And some of them are monetized and some of them are not, and some of them are charitable. I've done some deals where the donations go in and I agree to give half of it back to the venue because it's a nonprofit. It means it's a charitable deduction for me. So all of this is to say, this is what I've been doing, what I kept doing. The streams were ostensibly 2 hours. I haven't been under 2 hours in about 4 months. They're going basically 2:15 to 3. Yesterday was 3 hours and 18 minutes on a 2-hour stream. I also started doing something, and this is of value. I was running out of ideas. How do you keep it different? I don't just do the same thing. I started doing themed shows. I'll do songs I wrote that other people cut. I'll do I did all of my records in order. It got me through 17 days. So, to be able to do that. I did all requests, and they emailed them in. I did a tribute to a particular artist. Well, my road manager and I got the bright idea that we were going to go to the people and say, send me your 15-song set list. You get to pick whatever you want. And I will even do a cover of a song I've never done before. I'll learn it and I'll do it for you. I thought, initially I got 30 requests. I thought, this is really cool. It's been over 100 now. I did 5 solid months of what we basically called Dan fan sets. And they send them in, and I do them and I won't modify them. Well, here's a list you can put. No. You're the boss. You give me the list. You tell me what order to do them in, and that's what I'm going to do. And the fans are sitting there going, I've never heard the songs in these order. Or they're doing a robust chat, especially on Facebook and YouTube and Twitch, where they're talking to each other. These are the fans at the show who talk during the show, and you hate it. But in a stream, you don't hear it. You see it, and they're having a blast, because that's really what you're selling. You're selling engagement. You're selling a good time. You're moving people. If you move people, you're going to be gold, and this will keep happening. But as you increase your physical plant and your technological awareness, that is when you start making little leaps into better equipment, a little at a time, as you can afford it. But I mean, my microphone, yeah, that was $300, but I know this microphone. The microphone I had that I was using is now $170 with a setup. The lights were $170. The camera was $199. I would have been fine with a $100 camera. My mixer is a $229 mixer, but I got it open box for $175. But you may not need that. My microphones, I decided to go a little higher end, but you can get a pair of microphones for your instrument, $100 a pair. I mean, everything I've just rattled off here is under $600, and that's prohibitive for a lot of people. But you also dip into it a little at a time, and that's how you get there. I don't know if I haven't run out of anything to say here. I mean, that's not my attitude has always been, why use few words when many will do? But I'm trying to get into the areas that can be of help to you at this point. We talked about platforms. Let's talk about, every service out there has a composer, publisher, studio, they call it, into which you deal with your technical bits, whether you're simply allowing it to use your camera and your microphone, or you're using what's called a stream key, which works with external software. Facebook has one called the Facebook Producer. YouTube has one, it's called the YouTube Studio. There are websites out there that will allow you to do that and have a greater sense of control. Livestream is one of them. Ecamm is one that will allow you to use high-end digital single lens reflex DSLR cameras as a webcam. And they will also allow you sometimes to use multiple cameras. Switcher is one out there that's particularly good because it's all iOS. You can use your phones, and frankly, the phone has a pretty darn good camera in it. So, but I don't know if it's Android. I think it's iPhone only. But if you have an iPhone and an iPad, or maybe a couple of iPads, you can go 3-camera and switch between them on Switcher. It's not a cheap service, probably $50 a month. Ecamm is a little less expensive and allows you to use higher end gear. But there's a free piece of software out there that pretty much everybody graduates to called OBS, Open Broadcast Software or Open Broadcast System. It is an open source piece of software, which means it is free, it is modifiable, it is technically quite difficult. There's a learning curve. That's when you start digging into the tutorials on either YouTube or Google to learn how to use it. I didn't graduate to OBS until August. And there is a separate OBS, because it's open source software. A company called Streamlabs has slapped their brand and extra features on it. So it's called Streamlabs OBS, otherwise known as SLOBS. Yes, we call it slobs. And I use slobs. Now, slobs generally requires a fairly good computer. I was using a 2015 MacBook Pro that had a 2-core i7 processor, 8 gigabytes of RAM, and an ISIS 1.6 gigabyte video card. And I was doing pretty good. And then it would stall every once in a while or dump the connection once in a while. Finally had a conversation with a guy who said there are three elements, like a three-legged stool, to your computer if you're using a computer as opposed to a phone. There is processor, there is RAM, and there is the video card. So I'm talking to him, and I'm talking to a friend who's got a 2018 identical computer to mine and is not having the problems that I'm having. What I discovered in OBS, and through a consultant friend of mine I'll get into in a second, that you really want to use about 15% of your CPU, your central processing unit in the computer. Well, I was using 27%, and we're all scratching our heads going, this doesn't seem right. My friend's only using 8%, and she's got the same computer as you. Well, she had a 2018 of the same thing I had a 2015 of. Mine was a 2-core i7. Hers was a 4-core i7. And those cores simply mean more bang for the buck. So I talked to a friend, and I frankly did upgrade my computer to a 2019 16-inch MacBook Pro. Discovered that the 16 inches are the same specs as the full-blown desktop iMacs. The 13-inch, which I prefer for the road because it's smaller, doesn't have the juice. I ended up, it was for $2,000 was a 4-core i7, 16 gigabytes of RAM, and a 5300 Radeon video card with 4 gigabytes of juice for $400 extra bucks. That's a lot of money. I had saved, so I was lucky, and not all of us are in this position right now. But I found an 8-core i9, which is up until the current M1, which just came out for Mac. It was the most powerful processor they had, 16 gigs of RAM, and the 5500 instead of the 5300 with 8 gigabytes of video memory. And my friend told me, for 20% extra money, you're doubling your headroom. I use 2.5% of my CPU now. Now, do you all need to go out and spend $2,000 on a computer? Absolutely not. It is about thinking through what your issues are. You don't want, if you have an older computer, you're going to want to minimize the bells and whistles so that you can focus on pushing out. What I discovered before I went to Streamlabs OBS was regular OBS. The version 25 used more CPU than the older version 24, which I found by a Google search going, why am I having these issues with OBS, with the open broadcast software? And somebody said, well, the older version uses less CPU. So I was using the older version until I got the new computer. But what OBS will allow you to do, multiple cameras, screen overlays, multiple microphone sources, and you can go to individual platforms at once. Streamlabs, Slobs, will, for an extra $12 a month, allow you to go to multiples, if that works for you. And again, what I discovered is that it didn't work for me because my audience was one place, so now we caravan, and that has worked for me. Will I go back to multicasting? Maybe, maybe not. I know I've thrown a lot of information at you in a very short time. I will find out if it's legal for me to give you an email address to contact me later with questions, but I know we have questions here right now, and I'm hoping we can get into those.
Yes, we do have questions, Dan. All right, I just have to say, the work that you do, when I'm listening to you, I'm thinking I would have to sit with you because it's very, I mean, the research,
it's
it is, it's very intense. So I know there are people here who actually understood what you were saying. And there are those of us who actually will probably reach out to get more information because
Then let me repeat one thing really quickly. If you don't know much, Ian Anderson Gray at iag.me, search out top video streaming tools for 2021. It's an easy read, and it's almost everything I talked about is in there. That's the place to start.
Everybody will go to utilize that because that's really helpful to have something to be able to refer to.
Yep.
Okay, so here's let's get questions that people are dying to know about. And we have a great one where somebody talks about the fact that just like you talked about, that live streaming is really, you know, in so many ways can feel turnkey. But even when multiple locations might be involved, what they want to get a sense from you is, would it be overkill? Do you need it to deploy like a crew, like a one operator for different camera angles, or sort of a hooked in conference call with the director who could monitor the feed? At what point do you feel like that's necessary? If people are just getting off the ground, can they do it sort of the way you described? Or is this something that some people who are particularly tech savvy, with a lot of tech savvy director friends might want to consider?
Well, the technical part isn't as, I mean, certain things require staffing. If you're moving cameras, there are switchers. We didn't get into the hardware that are basically called video switchers. Elgato makes one. I think the other one is like ADET or something like that. I can't remember the name, but these are hardware switchers that will switch from camera to camera that you can pretty much do yourself is if it's below camera level. But if you're going to be doing zooms and pans and a lot of elaborate stuff, it is in fact helpful to have some help. But sometimes help costs money. Most of the people I know doing live streaming have what are called mods, which are basically who are moderators, but they're not on camera. They're the ones fielding questions from the audience. They're the ones making some of the selections, and it's usually one friend. We're in COVID isolation, so there was an ex-girlfriend was here at the beginning of the pandemic, and she did some of this, but now I just do it all alone. And as far as need, it's when your technical part gets so elaborate in terms of the production values. If lights are changing, if camera angles are changing. There are machines out there that will take a simple camera or phone and pan for you at the push of a button. So there are ways to defeat the notion of having to have a full crew. I would say it's really when it gets elaborate, and I'd hold off.
Thank you for that,
That's
Dan.
great advice. I think, Gabrielle, you had another question.
Yeah, I love that you showed how the camera is just going to go
Yeah.
and do that. I was thinking, I mean, that is really where we're at, why these are so important. Technology has always been there in the forefront, and now we're seeing, because of this period of time, the exponential growth, the change that's going to happen in our industry. These are really, people just think basically what they know, but there's so much out there right now. So that's why, anyway, we'll talk about that later. But this is a question here. I had a terrible issue with electronic feedback from my computer microphone. This is an important question, because one of the things is when we're doing, in terms of the technology, it's not only you don't have to be high tech, but you have to be clear. So I want to be able to answer this. The only way to fix it was to turn my volume all the way down. I've never had a problem with this on Zoom, but this was a different platform. Do you suggest earbuds? Using the AT2020 mic I use for voiceover recording?
The AT2020 mic, unless I'm mistaken, has a headphone out, and I would absolutely use earbuds. I have a little issue with Zoom. If I'm going through my mixer so I can use this microphone, I monitor off the mixer or I don't hear the mic. But I can't hear what's on Zoom. I am wearing two sets of headphones right now. I have my Shure 7506s that I use for all of my voiceover work, and that's plugged into the computer getting Zoom. I have in-ears coming out of the mixer, and I'm wearing them at the same time. I have earbuds under my headphones. People use the Apple earbuds a lot. They sound terrible and they fall out. But a $20 pair of earbuds, if they'll stay in, and you might want to have an extension cord, which might cost you another 10. But yes, earbuds are very, very helpful. Anything coming over a speaker to monitor is going to have the potential for feedback, which is one of the reasons why, and I'm looking at Rebecca and Gabby here, why we end up saying at SAG-AFTRA board meetings, put yourself on mute. Because the speaker bringing what you're hearing is going to have a slight delay. And so you'll hear the echo, but you'll also feedback is literally what's coming out of a speaker is feeding back into a microphone and coming out of the speaker. And the whoo that you hear is the system going. It's an endless loop. It's going to magnify into oblivion. That's what that is. Yes, earbuds, headphones, especially off a mic like the AT2020. I use the Rode. I'm a Rode podcaster guy. I'd like to thank the members of the Academy for this award. It's got a built-in headphone jack and a volume control so that you don't have to use your speakers and you can hear everything perfectly.
Good. That's really important. And one of the things for those of you who are joining us today, when we found that we're talking about technology, practice at home, practice, because you can really refine your ability to have better sound. And that's always going to be helpful, whether singing or acting. Anyway, Rebecca.
Yeah, we have somebody that's a composer. They have a Steinway M and they want to be able to record music at home. And they're looking for tips because they have a small handheld device, H1N, and wondered if you know it, Dan, and could you give them any tips in terms of settings and whether to use the auto level or the limiter. They just want to get some tips about that. So
Are you talking
obviously
about
they're-
you said, I don't know the Steinway. I mean, I know Steinway pianos, but Steinway M, I don't know. The H1, I think, is a Zoom brand. It's not the same Zoom as the video platform. It's a Zoom branded. I have an H4 myself. And they're generally designed for level. I would simply experiment and record into it and see what sounds the best. But I don't know if the question is how to deal with an electronic piano or an acoustic piano. But
I'll see if they come back with a follow-up.
right.
For sure.
But basically, in dealing with it, you know, any single mic solution is going to have compromises, especially where the sound is coming out the best of an acoustic piano is going to be different than where your voice is if you're singing. If you're only playing, then probably positioned in a place that's as close to the strings as possible. I know that in grand piano miking, what the people do in recording studios are condenser microphones that are usually Sennheiser 414s, and they usually have one at the treble and one at the bass. They get a stereo spread that way, and it also picks up those particular strings to the best effect. The same thing can apply to the Zoom. Position it in a place where it's closer to the strings, if it's an acoustic piano, to get the optimum sound.
Thank you for that, Dan. Thank you. This is interesting because when you're talking, what you said, there's 35 platforms out there. Is that right?
Some of them are K-pop platforms. Some of them are very specific gamer platforms. Some of them are in foreign countries. They certainly get people in the door by saying you can go on up to 35 platforms. I found 4 or 5 that were of value.
Platforms actually make it easier to stream multiple channels of audio without reconfiguring your system or using a program like Loopback.
The platforms that I'm talking about are they're like television networks. So they don't necessarily have anything to do with how you're going to be producing what you're producing. The aggregators like Restream that goes to 35 platforms, I think StreamYard has something like 10 available. They're the equivalent of television networks. Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Periscope, LinkedIn being kind of the top ones out there. And there are a whole lot of others I can't remember. So if you can read the question with regard to the technical part again, please.
So the whole question is, which platforms make it easier to stream multiple channels of audio without reconfiguring your system or using a program like Loopback?
I'm not familiar with Loopback, but basically if you're dealing with multiple channels, you still want a simple stereo feed out of whatever you're using to aggregate those channels. I'm using a 10-channel Mackie mixer, the Pro FX 10 V3, and it's got USB output. I have another mixer here from the old days that has normal output. I'd have to go into an interface. That is something I didn't quite get into, is that I decided I wanted reverb and multiple channels and USB output, which is why I got a new mixer. Otherwise, I would have had to have bought a reverb unit. The platforms that seem to deal with music signal the best, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. But they still want most likely a USB signal coming out of either your mixer or your mixer into an interface. The most popular interface out there is the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2, and it's $159. It'll take a stereo signal in with XLR cords or 1/4 inch, and it's a USB signal out. I decided to save. I have 2 interfaces here. I have a mixer. I didn't want to spend $150 on a reverb unit, so I spent $175 on one piece. So when I go on the road, I'm taking one piece of hardware instead of 3. But the bottom line is the platforms that deal with music the best, to my knowledge, are Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch.
Perfect. Now, Rebecca's going to do the last question, but I have to say there was a request if maybe when we finish, you'll just do a little song for us.
Sure.
But before that, Rebecca, why don't you do the last?
Oh gosh. All right. So can you talk a little bit more about the different ticketing platforms and things like that? Back in the days when I used to come see you live, I would pay at the door. Are there good tips with that? Are there good ticketing platforms out there that you like to use? Do you see any advantages? You talked a little bit earlier about monetizing on a platform, but do you ever use a ticketing platform, or are there ones that you like of that, or do you just really do it where it's a different setup?
Well, I don't ticket on purpose. Part of it, and I don't mean to be indelicate here, I have a royalty stream from my songwriting. I have a residual stream from my film work. And I've done 32 episodes of Family Guy and American Dad, ADR, Walla, from home. I'm working. So I told my audience, I don't need the money. So I'm not ticketing. My friend Michael McDermott, who's a recording artist with multiple albums out, he's been out for 25 years, uses StageIt, which is a platform I did not mention. StageIt is ticketed only. You pay a donation on a sliding scale, and you can also tip. He does only ticketed shows. StageIt is a platform for that, and because it's music oriented, designed for concerts, its audio is really good. There are ticketing platforms like Eventbrite. There is Brown Bag Tickets. There is Tickly. And these are all ticketing sites that have adapted to the new era to be able to sell tickets to events. There are, like StageIt, platforms that have ticketing aspects. There's a newer one called Mandolin that's out there that will do paid concerts. And if other people are using other sorts of platforms like that. I personally don't use them, but that's because of my personal situation. I have found that a PayPal link and you provide a URL to some sort of proprietary thing like a Zoom stream, you could do a webinar on Zoom to present, and you don't give them the link until they pay you, and you can use PayPal or Venmo for that. It's pretty. What's the word that I want?
Sounds like Wild Wild West.
It's the Wild Wild West, exactly, as opposed to a site that's designed for this purpose.
Right.
But one of the reasons to deal with the sites is if there are technical issues, they can deal with refunds. If they, in other words, they're a barrier, if you will. They're an interface between the public and you with regard to the financial aspect of it, and it can be handy.
Thank you, Dan. And I want to say, because this is all good information, but it's really important for everybody to remember, because we started off this presentation with knowing that we are not here as a union to endorse any product. Right. So there are a lot of things that Dan has been sharing, that he's heard about, that he's done, friends have done, but those were choices they made. And it's very important for you as an audience, when you're going to do this work, that you investigate what's best for you. These are just suggestions to launch you into opening your mind to what's out there. But this by no means, again, is an endorsement of any product. I just felt that was important to say, because we want to make sure everybody's on a good track moving forward. So,
well, that's union policy, but I got to tell you, I'm not endorsing any product in particular myself as just a user and a worker, because I've tried lots of them, and some of them have better advantages for certain applications as opposed to others. Doing the research yourself, nothing touches that.
Right, nothing touches that. And I want to say this again, because it's so important. So much of what you shared here, everybody, you're at home right now, practice some of this. Experiment with what works and see what's best effective for you, because we want you to have, not only for today, but into the future, to be able to grow your work and use live streaming as a method of doing that, if you're interested. So that being said, such a good conversation, but we are ready to hear you, if you don't mind, Dan, just to give us a little song.
Don't mind at all. And let me there was something I was going to add. Facebook live streams store, but what I discovered is they go up 1080p high definition, but they store in standard definition. If you download your live stream, it's not going to look that good. The OBS software has a little click in it where you can record at the same time. And so that's become very handy for me if I ever decide that I want to cull something to use in a different application. I just turned on these microphones here. Considering the crowd, I probably would be best served to do my best known song. And you can hear the reverb. I was fortunate in 1984, my late partner Eric Lowen and I, to have this song recorded. And it did rather well. It changed my life. 20 times I tried to tell you, 20 times I cried alone. Always I'm surprised how well you cut my feelings to the bone. 20 times I tried to tell you, 20 times I cried alone. Always I'm surprised how well you cut my feelings to the bone. 20 times I tried to tell you, 20 times I cried alone. Always I'm surprised how well you cut my feelings to the bone. 20 times I tried to tell you, 20 times I cried alone. Always I'm surprised how well you cut my feelings to the bone. 20 times I tried to tell you, 20 times I cried alone. Always I'm surprised how well you cut my feelings to the bone. 20 times I tried to tell you, 20 times I cried alone. Always I'm surprised how well you cut my feelings to the bone. 20 times I tried to tell you, 20 times I cried alone. Always I'm surprised how well you cut my feelings to the bone. 20 times I tried to tell you, 20 times I cried alone. Always I'm surprised how well you cut my feelings to the bone. 20 times I tried to tell you, 20 times I cried alone. Always I'm surprised how well you Don't wanna leave you really, just wanna break the ice. Do I look silly to you when I yield to your advice? When you say we belong to the light, we belong to the thunder, we belong to the sound of the words we've both fallen under. Whatever we deny or embrace, for worse or for better, we belong, we belong, we belong together. Si acaso no lo sabes, te aseguro que es verdad. El cariño que es sincero no se apaga con crueldad. Olvidas lo que fuimos y desprecias lo más fiel. Juntitos pretendimos que la luna era de miel. Junto a ti, solo es mi anhelo. Everybody sing with me. Junto a ti como el rayo de luz que ha brotado del cielo. No importa el porvenir si sufrir es mi triste destino. Junto a ti hasta el fin del camino, camino. The Spanish words mean that there's no love that is greater than that between a true-hearted gentleman and his chosen one in the back of an El Camino. What? Close your eyes and try to sleep now. Close your eyes and try to dream. Clear your mind and do your best to try and wash the palate clean. We can't begin to know it, how much we really care. But I hear your voice inside me, and I see your face everywhere. Now I say we belong to the light, we belong to the thunder, we belong to the sound of the words we've both fallen under. Whatever we deny or embrace, for worse or for better, we belong, we belong, we belong together. We belong, we belong, we belong together. We belong, we belong. Whatever we deny or embrace, we belong, we belong, we belong.
And that was beautiful. I
Thank you so
literally
much.
had tears, a little bit of chills going on. And I wish that I could hear you sing to me every day. Really beautiful.
Well, thank you.
Anyway,
Thank you.
thank you for today. Thank you. It was really a great discussion. I really appreciate everybody for being here today. I appreciate Dan, you being here, and thank you to all the staff who put this together, and Rebecca. On behalf of the team here at SAG-AFTRA, we want to thank you all for taking the time to be with us. It is a true pleasure always. Special thanks to each of you who have been tuning in every week for the President's Task Force on Education, Outreach, and Engagement live streams. If you have not already, and you must, please, while you're here, subscribe to SAG-AFTRA's YouTube channel to get updates on the great content that has been being posted. And thank you very much. Stay healthy, take care of yourselves, and have a better today.